Pretty excited because I figured out a way, hopefully, that I can share with everybody some interesting concepts I've been working on, and I've been searching for a way to basically replicate, what a whiteboard would look like, and draw some interesting in pictures and words, etc. So this hopefully will be the first of what will be many Whiteboard Wednesday presentations. I thought I would start out by talking a little bit about content marketing, and specifically using content in the sales process. And what better way to talk about that than actually producing a piece of content that I use in my sales process. Content marketing, inbound marketing, lead nurturing, whatever the buzzwords are, has really become almost a frenetic conversation out there, with everybody kind of using buzzwords and reading blogs and this and that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I see content fitting in the sales process. But first, let's talk about when we say the word content, what do we mean? Because people use it in different ways, etc. Content is anything we produce or find or use that is then shared with a prospect or a customer, to convey information. That said, for me, content, there's no right, wrong, or maybe, or good content or bad content, although maybe there's some bad content. Content is simply a fuel for a conversation. In my view, content, whether we're talking about a collateral, a slick, a marketing piece, or a white paper or a PDF or case study, content is not in and of itself something that is going to get a deal done. It's something that should be used throughout the sales process to drive the engagement in the conversation. I say this a lot. In selling, there's only two things that happen: human interaction and all the other stuff. So content is just one of those other, all the other stuff pieces. It does happen to be a very powerful tool to use throughout the sales process, and certainly with email automation and marketing automation tools, it's something that can be used in a very scalable way to drive engagement. So one of my favorite constructs, and you guys I'm sure have seen this before, is this notion of the the 4-box grid, where you've got two separate axes, your Y and your X axis, and you talk about going from low to high and low to high on these two axes. In my model, I take the Y axis and I use this to describe or to orient around the depth or the weight of the content. And really simply with that, I mean, how much effort is required to digest that content? Is it lightweight content? Something like a Twitter post is extremely lightweight content. It's still content. It may link to an article, maybe a standalone, etc. We typically think about things like white papers, PDFs, case studies as heavyweight content. So really there's a continuum here from light to heavy. My x-axis, I think about it as the voice or the perspective. Sometimes I use the word orientation of the content, but really the range in this axis is the content oriented around us, our product, our service, our features, our benefits, etc., or is it oriented around them, right? Their world, their needs, etc. A video or an article about a client telling their story with no reference of our product or even how it was used would be a 100% them-centric piece of content. So now that we have this this little matrix here, let's talk about some specific kinds of content and the application of it. I think it's pretty easy to acknowledge that content that is very us-focused is going to live in what I would call the spam zone, right? When we get content, when we receive content, email, voicemail, what have you, where somebody's talking about them and them alone, that's pretty easily recognizable as spam. And things in the spam zone, we want to opt out, we want to hit the spam button, we want to ignore that kind of stuff. Notice the shape I did here. The spam zone gets bigger the heavier the content. So us-centric, us-focused content that is on the heavy side is going to really be more triggering spam results. One of the things that some of you may remember, back in the day, there was a company called IDC, and IDC used to do these profiles of companies, which were basically paid for advertisements. They looked like profiles, white papers, case studies, but they were really paid for advertisements for the company. They worked lots of years ago. I think those things are fairly transparent now. One of the things you'll see a lot in magazines now are these paid advertorials. They're advertisements that are supposed to look like newspaper copy, etc. So that's always kind of interesting. We'll go to the other end of the spectrum, and we'll talk about high value, them-based heavyweight content that I would say is a very valuable tool for opening doors, right? In my work, I, both by myself and with others, will publish things like ebooks or guides, or even specific tools and processes that I can use to get a conversation started with a prospect. These things, other than having my logo on them, tend not to have any mention of my services, my products, how I work, or any of that at all. They are standalone, 100% focused on value for the prospect, and are a great way to open the door because it's almost like a gift, right? Let's talk a little bit while we're at it about content in the sales process. So one of the conversations and one of the questions I get a lot is, well, this is all great, Townsend, but content costs money and all this strategy stuff is very complex. Is it ever going to get me a deal? Or how does it actually work in the sales process? And what I'll say is, there is a zone of content, that is us focused, that probably, charts an axis like this, that is very useful in the sales process, right? When somebody is actively engaging to buy, looking at pricing, etc., well, they do need content. They need your traditional marketing, pieces, traditional marketing slick, handouts, etc. They may want even something that's very heavyweight, like a formal case study. I would say that's a very heavyweight piece of content that is very applicable in the sales process, but somebody's not going to open an email from you and initiate a conversation because of a case study. That's not really as them focused as it could be. In fact, this curve probably even goes like that. I'm not really sure, but something to think about. So we have spam stuff that's pretty obvious. Opening doors. We know we need content in the sales process. The question is, how do we get from one place to the other, right? How do you get from opening doors to the sales process? Well, what I really want is the ability over time to stay connected with my prospects, right? I want to stay on their radar, and I want to be in their inbox and have them not opt out. But I'm not going to do that, and I also can't afford to produce ebooks and these fancy things all the time. So if I have something like a blog article, blog or an article, or a post, or even one of the buzzwords out there is curated content. You'll see this a lot on LinkedIn, right, where people will be passing other articles on and referring information that they found. So that's a not us but a them centric content that's very lightweight and also can be used at a much higher frequency. Right, I can send it at a higher frequency, for a lot of reasons. One of them being it's easier for me to produce. So really, that's going to maintain connectivity and keep me on the radar, and either through pure timing or other aspects, I might get them to enter, into the sales process somewhere along here. What's going to drive this? Well, on one hand, it could be timing. Right? If I am in your content stream, your email, your LinkedIn, etc., and I'm always sort of top of mind for you because I'm sending you focused content, and your need pops up or your boss comes in and says, hey, we're really looking for this kind of a solution, there's a good chance you're going to get a ping over there and we'll move to the buying process. So timing is one. I can also use specific content that is designed to, I'll say, stimulate curiosity. Stimulate curiosity. One of the things that I'll do, for example, is I'll have a very, think of it as benign or very simple content track. A lot of information process, etc. I may use a customer highlight or something that I think your customer is doing that's very interesting or very compelling, or perhaps even, think about, external events. If you were in the, let's say, disaster recovery space, be it data or physical infrastructure, you want to come out and start, threatening somebody that their infrastructure is going to go down. You want to, perhaps give them something on the heavyweight side that's going to encourage them to talk to you and open the door. You want to maintain connectivity through some light stuff, but when there's a hurricane that strikes the East Coast and businesses are shut down, that may be a time to ping the prospect with, some special. One of my colleagues refers to these as trigger events, right? And I really like that concept of trigger events. That may be a specific piece of content that's going to move you over into the sales process. So hope this makes sense. We've got a good framework for how content plays out and where you might want to invest or not invest your time. Fundamentally, I want you to remember a couple things. Content is the fuel. It is the thing that's going to maintain your relationship over time. The value of that content is always going to be a function of the depth of that content in conjunction, with the context of where the prospect is in their timeline. Trying to present, specific content about my product when the prospect is in education mode is not really going to be helpful. So you got to take all this in consideration. Think about, what's the right kind of content. If you have a map like this, typically what you can do is use that to define content tracks or even a content calendar and understand what you need to build in order to be able to support this in your day-to-day selling conversations. Hope that's been helpful, and look forward to any questions. If you want to get a hold of me, that's pretty easy. My email is townsendwardlaw@gmail.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Happy selling.